58 live on 58 WCHS, the voice of Charleston. Rick Johnson and Michael Ignello, and our producer is Dale Cooper. Our phone number on the air, 345-5858, 345-5858 here on WCHS, the voice of Charleston. And with us right now is Jesse Johnson, who is running for Mountain Party for governor of the state of West Virginia. Welcome, sir.
Thank you. It's good to be back with you guys.
Jesse, welcome back, sir.
I've missed you.
We haven't seen you in a long time, brother.
I know. Well, I
about every 4 years.
For a year there. Well, yeah, every 4 years. I'm on schedule, but I wasn't there last year.
Well, here you are this year.
I am.
So tell me some of the experiences you're a guy that has to operate on a, let's just say, a little less of a budget than most these other candidates that are, backed by a big party.
Right.
And tell me some of the things you got to do this time, this election cycle, who you got to talk to, and just some of your experiences out there.
Well, it's very freeing not to be beholden to, multinational corporations and the banksters of Wall Street, and only, the only people that I'm concerned about are the people of West Virginia. And they have it tough. It's strange that we've long been touted for decades that we're probably the third most resource-rich state in the United States, but our people suffer tremendously. Our elderly, our children, our early child development issues, which they go out and pass laws and then don't fund them. I always talk about the three portions of law. You can pass a law and stand out there with a big check and pontificate and pretend like you did something, and then when it actually comes to funding it, if it's not funded, then it's not effective, and then it's certainly not effective if there's no money for the enforcement, which is what you see with a lot of things like the West Virginia Department of Environmental Protection. So, I get out with the people. I've been out in the trenches. I'm out, at those mine sites, looking at reclamation sites, visiting people in communities who ask me to come to see things because they really want witnesses. And they don't get witnessed by the two major parties and their candidates or nominees. So, I go out, I'm out there at these frack sites, which is so ironic. This is supposed to be the great transition fuel, but I go out to well pad after well pad where the tanks and the storage tanks and all these units are. They're 100% off the grid and solar powered. The only thing that's running on their energy is their pumping stations. And so when you go out and you see how people are suffering in the state, particularly when their water's being ruined, et cetera, they're all suffering from health care issues. It's very humbling, and all you want to do is help. And so that's, as Rick knows, I was a first responder. I come from a long line of first responders, and I'm kind of now known as a political first responder. So I go out there and I've been pretty good, as looking beyond the horizon line and predicting the curve since 2004.
Well, Jesse, we've always found you a fascinating guest and someone that thinks outside the box. I've always spoke well of you, always happy to have you on. I'll tell you something you brought up to me and really got me thinking about last couple cycles you were around, intellectual property. Mm-hmm. And now, of course, that's being talked about a lot more at many different levels. But that's something you were very big about and trying to attract the movie industry and other entertainment venues to the state, to bring some of their work. And are you still involved in that just a bit?
Sure, but I passed the first, or I wrote and got through the first concurrent resolutions for studies in the legislature back in, I believe it was 2003, and that's really kind of what got me into the 2004 nomination, because as it turned out, I got approached by a Republican and a Democrat who were both running for their nominations. Turned out to be Warner and Manchin, and then the Mountain Party said, "Hey, why don't you run for us?" And then, and at least you'll get credit for your work. Intellectual property is big. It's the future. It's the 21st century. It's obvious we need something because we don't produce anything anymore. Other than our number one export of this country, which is garbage. So,
You mean real garbage?
real garbage. That's right. And
Not figuratively speaking.
No, actual garbage. And we really need to return to our roots of having products to trade with other nations. And that's why I since 2004, I've been talking about the need to get away from this waste of burning coal and turning it into energy when there are other options that are far more viable and cheaper for all of us. And particularly in the long run, I push for a new carbon economy based on carbon foam, carbon fiber. We've talked about that stuff. But it's interesting that after we've talked about that the last two cycles, now in 2010, the Nobel Prize in Science went to a couple of physicists who did a fascinating thing. They took a piece of paper, they took a number 2 lead pencil, and they sat and ground it on that paper, and then they took a piece of Scotch tape and they put it on what they had just ground off of the number 2 lead pencil, and they pulled it up. And what they discovered was the strongest, most conductive, and what will be the most expensive substance on the face of the planet, and that is graphene. It's one atom thick layer of the strongest strata there is, and it's the key to supercomputers and nanotechnology and glass technology, smart glass technology in the future. Once again, West Virginia shoots itself in the foot. We had one of the biggest glass industries in the nation, and we gave it away in favor of plastics, and unfortunately we really needed to have kept that, because Corning is truly looking beyond the curve and seeing the future of what is possible. All the smart glass that will be covering everything from your car to your refrigerator to you'll be carrying around slivers of glass, or your readouts will come up in your windshield or your eyeglasses, and you'll be able to do that, and mostly due to two things. One, glass, which we could revitalize that industry here in West Virginia in a heartbeat, and secondly is carbon and that graphene, the ability, and guess where you find that stuff? In every coal mine in West Virginia. Isn't it funny that that they're shutting it down, but maybe they're starting to realize that this non-renewable resource now is so valuable that we can't keep taking it and pulverizing it and blowing it into a blast furnace to either create energy, or if we're taking our most valuable coal and that's coming in from the mountaintops in southern West Virginia and decimating those communities and their history and the biosphere there, and shipping it to China to provide these steel making jobs for the Chinese to ship us back inferior steel. We need to do all of it right here and start replacing steel with carbon, having carbon cars, carbon planes, carbon containers, shipping containers, all these things, lightweight, durable, explosion-proof, fireproof, soundproof, on and on and on. All of that comes from the key of carbon. And guess what we're doing? We're wasting it. And instead of putting miners to work, union miners to work underground and providing that carbon and creating a manufacturing base right here in the hills and hollers of West Virginia that can ignite the entire nation's middle class again, what are we doing? The wrong thing. We're constantly doing the wrong thing, and this propaganda of this war on coal. I'm sorry, guys. I'm sure we disagree on this, but, considering the fact that last year was a record year for coal exportation in the state of West Virginia, you can find it on the Commerce website if you look deep enough, the $6 billion, that's with a B, $6 billion exportation of coal. It was like a 49...
I'm with you on a lot of what you're saying, but when you say the propaganda of war on coal, when you've got when you got mines shutting down all over the place and guys out of work, that's not propaganda to them, Jesse.
Well, I'm sure it's not propaganda to them, but I have a plan to put them to work.
I know, but that doesn't make that propaganda. I mean, I like your plan. I love hearing about the carbon. Well, no, carbon, I really love it. I mean, I think that's a great. You always bring that kind of stuff to the table. But to say there's a propaganda of war on coal, I think devalues yourself.
Well, no, not at all, because the facts are the facts. We have a record exportation of coal, and then
that's because we've got great machinery doing it. it. I mean, that's not because
that's putting right. Then the machinery is putting out. And when you're doing mountaintop removal coal mining, that machinery, that mechanization is putting coal miners out of work.
Well,
also,
it's also doing it underground. Hold on. Take a breath. Underground, they got $1 million machines down there too.
Oh, absolutely.
So mechanization is making us more efficient with less people. But I'm talking about coal miners losing their job.
I understand. I am too. And it's greatly because of mechanization. It's also because we sell out to multinational corporations. You may have seen just on the 22nd of October, the list of coal mines that went down because of the Russian who owns it now, has shut them down.
Why did he shut them down?
Well, that's a good question. But who's an expert in propaganda? The Russians.
I understand, but you don't buy something to shut it down to take a loss. Market pressures usually make you shut down. I don't care if you're Russian, Finnish, or Irish.
Okay, let's go back to those two guys who discovered graphene. One was a Russian, the other is of that descent, and so perhaps the Russian,
it's getting a little thick.
Perhaps the Russian understands that this is too valuable to waste. Okay, and so when this transition, he's probably expecting the Marcellus to take over our power production, which it shouldn't. It shouldn't, because the Marcellus is even greater danger to the state of West Virginia than what the mountaintop removal coal mining has been to southern West Virginia.
How's that?
Well, because various reasons. One, the key thing that occurred when Earl Ray Tomlin last year in his election in 2011, there was a move for a moratorium on the Marcellus in the legislature, and they pretty much had half of the people that they needed, and they were on their way to getting a moratorium. Earl Ray Tomlin said, okay, we'll put up this special select committee to study this, and then he ended up, they had the head of the DEP came in and made a statement which was absolutely false, that there is no problem with radiation in the Marcellus. And that's wrong. He knew it was wrong, but he wasn't under oath, and he told the legislators that, and the AP trumpeted it, and so suddenly everyone, the legislators, the media, everyone all the way around the board suddenly thinks that the Marcellus is safe. The Marcellus is not safe. It's got the most dangerous parts are radium-226 and 228, which, if ingested or inhaled, will kill you. It's not a matter of if it will kill you. It will kill you. It's a matter of when.
All right, we're out of time. I wanted to give you like 30 seconds to kind of wrap up your pitch. If you were on the stump today and you had a group of people standing in front of you, what would you say to them to get them to at least think about voting for you tomorrow?
Well, the biggest argument about voting for me is typically he can't win. Well, the reality is in 2011, the last election cycle, Earl Ray Tomlin won with 12% of the registered voters in the state of West Virginia. Maloney, 10%. He excited 1/6 of his base. I have excited more than there are Mountain Party members every time I've run. So the fact of the matter is if I got 15% and I beat these guys with their numbers, dismal numbers from last year, and still 50% of the registered voters of West Virginia can sit at home on their hands, which is wrong. It shouldn't be happening. But the reality is that they are uninspired by those two individuals. We need leadership. We need someone who is going to give West Virginia a vision for the future and something strong to hold on to. Another thing that I want to do is create a state bank and put a public works project to bury all these power lines so that we don't have to go through these power outages. You guys don't have to stay up all night. I volunteered to come in here and sit up with you all night and keep it going. This does not have to happen, and it shouldn't happen. It would enhance our tourism in the state of West Virginia, and we could do it with a state bank just like North Dakota that has the highest quality of life and the lowest unemployment rates in the nation for over 90 years. We can fund our own things right here in West Virginia, put people to work, take back our water from the public works, take back the water from the multinationals who have come in and taken our water supplies. This is dangerous stuff when we give away our water and then we allow the hydrofrackers to come in and potentially pollute pollute 1/3 of West Virginians' source of water that they use to drink, to bathe their children, and to grow their crops and feed their livestock. This all needs to change, and it needs to change now, and I'm the guy to do it.
Never boring. Jesse Johnson with us here on 58 Live. Good luck tomorrow.
Good luck, Jesse.
Thank you very much, guys. I really appreciate it.
Hey, Dad, how do you throw a curveball? How do you build a fort? How do refrigerators run? How do fish learn how to swim?
Kids,